So today I'm going to do something that I don't ever do. I never look at the risk side of any business, not even my own businesses. I was fortunate enough to have a partner in my manufacturing business who did, he would say that there is a light at the end of the tunnel and it's a train coming the other way. So he was way more interested in the risk side of things than I was. But I'm going to do it. I took some time and some energy to think through what are the major risks associated with Tesla. This is Randy Kirk, and if you're liking any of the stuff that I do, if you like the content that I'm suggesting today, please subscribe. I am looking for more members for my Patreon group because we need a whole bunch of folks to be able to really start to seriously do the spitballing and the masterminding and the thinking about the future that we want to do in that environment. So yes, there are benefits to joining. You are going to get some videos early, like this one. You're probably watching it a couple of days before anybody else sees it. You're going to see some possible spreadsheets and marketing approaches and things and thoughts that you're not going to see at all. It's never going to be on YouTube. But having said that, the most important reason is because we're going to have fun. All right, so let's get into it here. Tesla stock has risks. And the number one risk would be if Elon leaves, okay? So there's no question about that. We're not going to argue about that. It's not up for discussion. And yet, I happen to believe personally that even if Elon Musk left today, he, for whatever reason, went back to his home planet, as many people have suggested in the past. He just decided, you know what, it's been fun, but I'm done. I'm going to go over and I'm going to put all my time into the Boring Company. Or I'm going to put way more time into SpaceX because I want to get us to the moon sooner or Mars sooner. So if he left, I think everything's in place. It won't happen as fast without Elon. There will be things that won't happen if Elon's not there. But I believe that Tesla will still be a $1.5 trillion company in 2030, not counting robotaxi, not counting Optimus, not counting Dojo as a service, not counting insurance, not counting a whole bunch of stuff, just with the three main products that are being produced today: the cars, the semis, and energy storage. Just those three, 1.5 trillion in sales at 17, 18% operating margins by 2030. With or without Elon, that happens, okay? But it's a risk. So if you're looking for risks associated with Tesla, that would be my number one. Number two, one or more governments may come in and say that Tesla is a monopoly and needs to be broken up. This is most likely to happen when robotaxi does happen, and when robotaxi is expanding rapidly and starting to take out taxi cab companies and Uber and Lyft, and where people are abandoning their cars in the farmer's field because they have no use for it anymore, and there's no value to it anymore. There can become a point. Maybe Tesla's doing $5 trillion in sales and throwing off $1 trillion a year in free cash flow. This is all possible. These are not crazy numbers. So there's a point at which governments might say we need to break up these companies. I'm okay with that. In fact, I'm so okay with them breaking up the company into component parts that I've recommended already and done videos on that. Optimus, the robot, should be a separate company. We should spin it off now. There's a real possibility that energy storage would really do better as a separate company. Spin it off now. I can see a real opportunity for the robotaxi to be a separate company. Spin that off. Could spin it off now. Spin it off later, but it could be and should be maybe a separate company. Dojo as a service doesn't fit really within the entire ecosystem. Is a completely different idea, completely different company. Make that a separate company. So you could end up having 5, 6, 7 different companies before the government starts splitting them up. I think there would be an advantage to this. As a stockholder, you would get stock in the new company equivalent to the stock that you have in the current company, so you have no loss involved. And because of the history, like General Electric and others, When you split up the company, usually the individual parts are worth more outside the company than they are inside the company. So we as stockholders would likely benefit from these split offs. And then we wouldn't have this issue, this potential problem where some or another government might cause a breakup of Tesla. All right, number 3, a major competitive breakthrough in batteries would be my number 3 biggest risk that I would see. Now, sodium is a possibility. Carbonite is a possibility. There are possibilities that we may not even know about that are out there that people are discussing, that are in labs. Solid state has been discussed as a possibility. A lot of these possibilities are out there. It would take not only a major breakthrough in order to make it a serious risk, it would take a major breakthrough that could be ramped quickly, because let's say there's a major breakthrough tomorrow and the first outs would be in 3 years, which probably makes sense. And really ramping would be 5 years, and any significant numbers would be 7 years, just like has been true for other battery companies. Unless the breakthrough allows really extremely fast ramping, then it's really not a threat to Tesla for years and years into the future. It would also have to be the kind of breakthrough that Tesla couldn't just buy out tomorrow. With $21 billion, $22 billion in the bank and no debt, they can pretty much buy out anybody who has a great idea for a new battery that Tesla can identify as a great idea. So I would suspect that they would buy out anybody that was that great of a threat. And other companies don't have nearly the resources to be able to up the bid as high as necessary as Tesla could in order to be able to take advantage of any major breakthrough of that type. Number 3 is it's possible that Tesla is the one who will be the very ones who will have the breakthrough and who will have the better idea, and or they might see the better idea and they might have their own way of making the better idea. There's so many different ways that this risk is mitigated, but it is a risk, and I think it should be on your list, or it's certainly on mine. Number 4, the Chinese government. Lots of people set forth the Chinese government as being a big risk. Tesla has a big investment in China. They have a large factory in China. It's their number 1 producing factory in terms of units, number 1 most profitable factory in terms of bottom line. So if China came in tomorrow and said, we're going to nationalize, we're going to take over your factory, get out of town, and you don't get anything for what you've done, that's a possibility. It's happened. It's happened in other countries in my lifetime, probably in your lifetime. So is it impossible? No. Is it likely? I think it has a high or low degree of likelihood. And the good news is Tesla is building new factories all around the world. So if that happens in China and you've almost got a factory built in, let's say, Indonesia, or maybe you have another factory, or you have factories built that are partially built in several places, you've got room to expand in Reno, Nevada. You've got lots and lots of room to expand in Austin, Texas. You've got lots of room to expand in Berlin. And now you're talking about new countries that they're going to be building gigafactories in. So do you lose some energy? You lose some time? You lose some opportunity, and you lose some profit? Yes, all of those things are true. I don't think China's going to do it, but I think it's a risk. I think it's an important risk, but I don't think it's in any way a catastrophe waiting to happen. Number 5, gasoline prices come way down as the use of gasoline goes way down. So if there's lots of supply and less demand, and there's going to be less demand, let's face it, more and more electric cars, more and more electrification of homes, more and more peaker plants put out of business, more and more diesel trucks that are changed to electricity. The demand, we're at peak demand now. According to Tony Seba, we're at peak demand now for oil. If we're at peak demand for oil, then that means as oil supply is going to stay the same. It's going to be there. It's going to be available. As demand goes down, only one thing can happen to price. And this will be true for gas and for oil, for natural gas and for oil. They compete with one another. But natural gas prices have to come down also, because that demand is also going to come down. So what does that mean? As those prices come down, gasoline prices are going to come down, natural gas in your home is going to come down, or in your business. So as those things come down, the purchasing decision to go electric, whether it's a car or a semi-truck or for your home, the purchasing decision is partially based on the economic advantage. If the economic advantage shrinks and becomes less, then your urgency to make that change changes. Maybe even your desire to make that change changes. You're no longer that urgent or that interested in making the change. We all tend to be, our momentum tends to be towards staying the same. We tend to want to, we hate change. Most humans hate change. I know there are many places in my life that I don't want to change. So if there's not as great a reason to change, then that could reduce the demand for electrical products, whether it's a car, whether it's a semi, whether it's energy storage. So this would be a risk to Tesla and to all EV producers and all battery storage producers. I think it's a very low risk, and here's why. Number one, actually it's just one reason. The number one reason is the cost of electric cars and of electric storage and sun and wind. The cost of all these things is coming down rapidly. Again, Tony Seba, being somebody who I trust, says it will continue to drop rapidly as manufacturing expands in these categories. So even if the cost of gas comes down, even if the cost of when I say gasoline, of oil, and of natural gas, even as those come down, the reason for making the switch to an electric car will still be there. The reason for making a switch to electrification of the grid and elimination of natural gas and other methods of powering the grid, those reasons will still be good for making the switch. So it's a cost advantage, and I think the cost advantage is just going to get greater, not less. But it's a risk. It's a real risk. I've been in the bicycle industry my whole life, and every time the price of gas goes up, people come out and buy tons and tons of bicycles. When the price of gas comes down, nobody buys a bike. So I've seen it happen over and over again in my career. It will have an impact, or could have an impact, and so it's a risk. Number 6, competitive automobile options. This is a thing that is going to happen. What year? That's a good question. Will there ever be another automobile out there that is as cool as a Tesla? Probably not. When I say ever, in the next 10 years, probably not. I think Tesla can hold on to its advantage. It has so many advantages. Advantages in software, advantages in safety, advantages in hardware, advantages in the motor, advantages in the methods of manufacturing, in particular, the methods of manufacturing, advantages in the huge engineering core that it has. It has so many advantages that if they keep their eye on the ball, I suspect that Tesla will always have the very best EV on the market. If we go to robotaxis, then there's going to be less EVs sold for personal use. That means that's going to affect everybody. Okay, but there'll still be EVs made for robotaxis, and I think Tesla will be so far ahead in that it won't be a competition. But Tesla has said, I have said repeatedly, Tesla can't make all the cars. They're saying they're going to make 20 million a year. Well, you need about 60 million a year, 80 million a year, 85, 90 million a year. If there's less need for cars because of robotaxis, because people are no longer buying their own car, and robotaxis are used 5 or 6 times more efficiently than a personal car, and so you need 20% as many cars, you're still going to need at least 20 million a year. And I think there's a very good reason to believe that it'll be more like 50 million. 2 reasons. There are still personal uses for cars and trucks where you need it for the job site. You need it because you're a salesman and you want your equipment with you, whatever. There's a bunch of reasons like that. And especially for trucks, for light trucks and for semis. So I don't think it'll all be robotaxis anytime soon. So let's say it drops to 50 million. Oh yeah. And then there's always the possibility that because usage goes up, you need more robotaxis than you thought you were going to need. So, but we'll say 50 million a year. Tesla has no plans to make 50 million vehicles a year. They're going to make 20. So you're going to need companies that are making the rest. If Tesla can maintain their lead, they'll get to 20 million. The other folks can split up to 30. I think that's the likely scenario. I think the risk is low, but it's a risk that we should put on the list. And maybe you think it's a higher risk. Tell me in the comments. Okay, number 7 is a breakthrough on autonomous driving from another company. Elon Musk said the other day that he can't see with a telescope the next best autonomous driving system out there. Now, he owns Tesla, or he's an owner in Tesla. He's basically the inventor of the autonomous dream. So what's he going to say? But I can't either. Can you? All the rest of them are required to be mapped and to only drive in a certain number of circumstances. General Motors, their Cadillac the other day, they're all proud of reaching level 4, but their level 4 car can't go over 40 miles an hour while it's in robotaxi. It has to be within 100 yards of the car in front of it in order to work. That's not a system. That's not useful. So I'm sorry. No, I don't see anybody else that's close either, but it's a risk. Somebody could come up with it. A really significant breakthrough. Something in software, something in AI that comes from like an AI company, like, that's what they do. And they just all of a sudden, wow, they got it. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think there's a chance in the world, but it is a risk. And I think we need to put it down there. A huge force majeure. Some people may not know what force majeure is. That means a major, usually natural, but it could be governmental, catastrophe, crisis, something that happens that just befuddles the world or befuddles an entire continent or at least a country. So you could have a country that goes bankrupt. You could have a country that their currency goes running out of control. You could have a pandemic that affects the entire world that would be bigger than the COVID situation. An asteroid hits the Earth. Major volcanoes erupt all at once. So many different possibilities. Our children are all shuddering today because their teachers are telling them about the end of the Earth as we know it due to climate change, which is the biggest bunch of hokey that I've ever heard, because the IPCC does not say that. I've read it. It doesn't say that. So yes, there's going to be changes. If the Earth continues to warm up, we will have to have mitigating factors, and some people may have to move out of the homes that they're living in today. But if you live anywhere near a volcano, you might have to move too. And if you live on the coast of Florida, you take your chances every year. So not to say that there's anything wrong with getting rid of fossil fuels. I'm all for that, 100% in. But please stop scaring our children about things like asteroids hitting the world and global warming causing some kind of catastrophic end to human civilization as we know it. Okay, I'm sorry, got off on a tangent. Let's go on to, so huge force majeure. Yes, it could happen. Tesla is well suited to be able to handle that better than anybody else. And a force majeure like that is going to basically mean we all have a real problem. Okay, so number 9, some huge hack of the software, of Tesla's software, or a big FSD mess up. So in other words, maybe there's an upload of version 27 on FSD, and now everybody's driving hands-free. They're sleeping in the back while the car is going. They're talking to their friend instead of paying any attention to the road at all. And then the new version comes up. People go out, and for whatever reason, 10 minutes into the drive, it turns off. And people start hitting each other. They start running into one another because the FSD just shuts down, or something happens, a solar flare, and FSD shuts down. I mean, I hate to make my own catastrophic events, but that's what I'm doing on this video. It's not like me. So something happens that's specific to Tesla's software or their FSD that causes a breach of trust. We've seen this happen. It's not like it can't happen. Major companies, governments get hacked, and all of a sudden they're not trusted anymore. 25 years ago, whatever that was, somebody went in and started messing with over-the-counter drugs in drugstores and hurting people. So now we all know that we have to take the cap off and take that little plastic thing off. These things happen, and those things happen, and Shouldn't have, but they destroyed trust in those individuals who were making those products. It wasn't their fault, but it still destroyed trust. So something like that could happen. That is a risk. It's a very small risk, but it is a risk, and I think it should be on your list. And then finally, number 10, an unexpected material supply issue or supplier problem. So let's, we've had these examples, so it's not impossible. Asbestos. Who knew that asbestos could cause, problems with your lungs? Lead in paint, the aerosols in air conditioners. So we've had all these issues over my lifetime, and we've had to eliminate those products, or in most cases, it was possible to slowly eliminate them and find a replacement. But what if we found out that some product in the important product in the manufacturing of batteries in particular, not so much cars, but probably in the manufacturing of batteries, was a really serious, consequential problem that needed to be dealt with quickly. That could cause a serious problem to Tesla. Also, suppliers. So I've said in my books, I've written a bunch of books for entrepreneurs. If you'd like to buy one of those books, When Friday Isn't Payday is where you should start. That's been out for going close to, I think, 30 years now. Yeah, 30 years this year. When Friday Isn't Payday has been out. It's now in the 3rd edition. And you can read what I think about how to run your small company effectively and efficiently. So in those books, I always talk about your supplier is more important than your customer. There are millions, even billions of potential customers, but a good supplier, there might only be one, or there might be two, there might be three. So just this morning or yesterday, a report that a company that Tesla uses to make headliners for their interiors declared bankruptcy. Now they're still in business. So it was a, doing business bankruptcy, but it could happen. Some important supplier could go out of business. An important supplier could make a mistake. What was the seatbelt supplier a few years ago that created havoc for lots and lots of companies? Was seatbelt, or was it the airbag, or both? Anyway, created havoc for lots and lots of automotive companies. So that is a risk. It needs to be on the list as a potential risk, but I don't think it's a risk that will be a long-term risk. It's almost always going to be something that can be dealt with in the near term. So there you go, my 10 major risks. I'm happy that I did it, even though it's against my grain. If it was helpful to you, please join Patreon, comment, tell me what you thought about this particular video. Give me your own risk list. Tell me where I was wrong on some of those. Were there bigger risks than I thought? Tell me what you think. It's been great talking to you.
Click the link below to get your paperback, Kindle, or audiobook now.